All right, next up we are going to have the Blue Zones Executive Director, Sarah Kearney. She's going to bring you the inside scoop on the top 9 things you need to know about what's going to happen during the community transformation.
All right. Well, again, welcome. You just heard from me like 5 minutes ago. So happy to have you all here. I did not expect to have a standing room only audience. So I love that you all are interested about learning more on what all of this that sounds really great really actually means. So first and foremost, how many of you were familiar with the Blue Zones prior to today? Okay, good. How many of you were familiar with Blue Zones prior to the Netflix series that rolled out on August 30th-ish? Okay, still a good group. So how many of you have been following Dan Buettner for 20 years? We got 1, 2, 3 even. So let me just tell you, Blue Zones conceptually is brand new to me as of March of 2022, when Blue Zones, when the city of Scottsdale and Honor Health invited Blue Zones into the community to do an assessment to see if we were the right fit for a Blue Zones project. Sure enough, we are, and that's why we are now here today. So that's really exciting. So contextually gives you a little bit more information on how we got here, but also the more I learned, the more fascinated I become, and little did I know that this was going to be my new purpose and calling and exactly where I'm supposed to be. So it's really an honor to be here with you and share more about these original Blue Zones and how they evolve into an evolution of Blue Zone project concepts. So as many, or maybe all of you know, and I'll skip through this part really, but those original Blue Zones, our founder, Dan Buettner, identified 5 regions across the globe that are the longevity hotspots. Not only were these individuals living to 100 at far greater rates than we as Americans, they were living really good lives, free of chronic disease, illness, and fatigue. If I were to ask you all, how many of you want to live to 100? How many of you would say yes? Without any caveats. A good group of you. If I normally hear those rumblings, so if I were to rephrase that, how many of you would like to live to 100 if you were financially secure, free of chronic disease, illness, fatigue, have your brain, your body all still in working great function? Yeah, everybody wants that, right? We all do. And there's certainly some great stories all across the globe, whether it be from Sardinia or the Nicoya Peninsula to Loma Linda, California, to Okinawa, Japan, and to Ikaria, Greece. So again, the findings, we found those places and spaces where people were living better, longer, and we figured out how they did it. So that's really number 9. Number 9 is all about the original Blue Zones. Great discovery. These people weren't trying to live a long time, which is even better. You know, they weren't doing anything rigorous or extensive. It was just their natural way of life throughout their day-to-day activity. So the number 8 thing that you need to know is that Blue Zones Project Scottsdale makes healthy choices easier through permanent changes and to our human-made surroundings, our policies, our systems, and our social networks. So with that said, it's a focus on individual behavior versus diet and exercise, and it improves those spaces and places around you so that healthy choices are easier. I love that we have so many choices to make on a day-to-day basis. I also hate that I have to make so many choices on a day-to-day basis. When we think about the number of decisions that we make in a day, you know what? I would love it if the easiest choice was a healthy choice and it was smacking me in the face every day so that I knew the right choice to make. And that's what we really hope to do with this initiative. Blue Zones Project, as you heard, this is number 7, nationally renowned well-being improvement initiative focused on helping communities change their life radius. What we refer to as life radius are where 90% of Americans spend, or where you spend 90% of your time outside of your home. The national average would say that bubble, as we, I think, more commonly and affectionately know it as, is a 20-mile radius. I would beg to differ that in Scottsdale, it's maybe half that if we're lucky. I know people that live north of Shea that don't go south of Indian School and vice versa. So we want to impact all parts of our community from tip to make sure that those healthy choices are accessible and within your life radius too. A higher level of well-being leads to lower healthcare costs, higher productivity, and it really offers benefits for everyone. So if we're healthier on the front end, think about how much more we're saving on the back end in those healthcare dollar expenditures towards the end, our latter years in life. So number 6 really is around the Power 9, and that's why you're learning the 9 most important things about the Blue Zones Project. So Power 9 principles, 4 core areas that are all simple lifestyle behaviors, or at least that's what people tell me, that they're simple, and I say, well, why is nobody doing it then? But it really is around moving naturally. This is about natural movement, getting up and down, walking around. It's not about rigorous workouts, running marathons, pumping iron, or trying the latest and greatest diet or workout trend or fad. COVID certainly didn't do us any favors, as we could just sit all day in one spot and have everything come right to us. So it's those simple nudges, again, that remind us, get up. We think about Okinawa. Most of furniture, if they have furniture, sits low to the ground or no furniture at all. To go from a sitting position on the floor to a standing position is a workout. In those original Blue Zones, the natural environment in many cases was on an incline. We're fortunate that everything is so accessible, which is great, and we can easily walk around our spaces and places, but think about those natural environments where people are consistently working out, and we see our centenarians in those original Blue Zones doing it with ease. The other areas, when we have a right outlook, that really is around purpose. The reason, if you wake up and you know the reason why you wake up in the morning, so in Okinawa, it's your ikigai. In Costa Rica, it's your plan de vida. That could add 7 good years to your life. They say that the 2 most dangerous years in a person's life is the year that they're born and the year that they retire. That makes a lot of sense to me. I'm sure it may to you, and some of you may be close to retirement or in retirement that are looking to unlock that purpose and what it means. That's what this work is going to help do. Also, it's important to take time to downshift. We know that stress often leads to a variety of other diseases and illnesses. So if we, in order to take care of others and serve others, we certainly have to take care of ourselves first. So finding ways to shed stress, de-stress, and that looks different for every single person. So if it's reading a book, paying respect to loved ones lost, taking a nap, or going to happy hour with friends, whatever downshifting means to you to shed that stress, make sure you incorporate that into your life so that, again, you can add some more good years to your life. Also, we talk about eating wisely. So there's kind of 3 pillars, lifestyle principles that fall in that category. So one is the 80% rule. So in Okinawan, it's a mantra that individuals sit down before every meal, and it's 3 simple words, hara hachi bu. It means eat until you're 80% full. That gap of 20% could be the difference of gaining weight, maintaining weight, or even potentially losing weight. So my parents are here today. I don't know if they're in this session, but we kind of grew up in a household where I was supposed to clean my plate in order to get dessert. So when my 9-year-old says, when I ask her if she's still hungry and she says I'm 80% full, we're good, she's good. So we're practicing it at home and it's working. The majority of the original Blue Zones had a plant slant diet. So that means that they weren't vegan or vegetarian, but meat was really consumed up for celebratory occasions. So, and also much smaller quantities. So whether it was 3 to 4 times a month, but the protein, the meat protein was the size of a deck of cards. So really they were filling on more vegetables, fruits, leafy greens, grains, nuts, and beans. Dan Buettner himself will tell you beans is the big one that we don't traditionally consume as much in our society. So if you eat a cup of beans a day, that adds several years to your life as well. And then the other one, which is always the crowd favorite in this community, and I'm sure I'm going to get cheers, and also you're all going to say you are doing a great job of this one, is wine at 5. right? So this is if you have a healthy relationship with alcohol, 1 to 2 glasses a day, preferably the Sardinian Cananao wine. But if you don't have access to that, a Grenache grape is pretty similar. And we've got some good ones right here in Old Town at some of our Arizona tasting rooms. But really that is, there's a lot of great antioxidants and nutrients that there's also something to be said. Wine at 5 with friends, with food, with family, building connection and belonging. So again, 1 to 2 glasses a day doesn't mean 14 tonight. So if you haven't caught up on your wine consumption this week, you can get started tonight with 1 or 2 in good company. And then the other thing is really that sense of connection and belonging. And this clearly shows that this community has that and we can continue to build it. Social isolation and loneliness is not something that is just happening in our local neighborhoods. It's happening across the country, and we're really seeing the negative impacts of what has happened with that. And it's not just our aging population, it is also our children and our youth that we've got to reverse that. We've got to get people together again, spending time together with one another, building relationships, lasting friendships. So that's where this connection piece comes. And it's around putting yourself and surrounding yourself with your positive pack of people. There's stats that show if 5 of your friends are obese or overweight, you have 150% more chance that you too will be overweight or obese. So it's really having the right mindset, surrounding yourself with those people that also have that mindset. My personal favorite Power 9 principle is loved ones first. Putting your loved ones first, whether if they are by blood or by kinship, that there is great studies and great results. And again, I'm fortunate that my parents live just down the street, and we try to have Sunday dinners, and they get to be with my kids. I think both sets, all of us are going to live a little longer because we have the ability to spend that time with our family, no matter how busy life really gets. And I bet you can imagine how busy life has been getting this set up and ready to go. So, and then lastly, a sense of belonging. So in most of our original Blue Zones, people were members of a faith-based organization. It does not matter what the denomination is, but attending services has also shown great longevity results for people. So that was a lot in that one in that one number, but good to incorporate. So now let me dive a little bit deeper into how we do this work and our 3 pillars. So our number 5 thing that you need to know about Blue Zones Project Scottsdale is the people component. So this is all of you. In order to reach a sustainable change, right? This is a 4-year project, transformation project. We have to reach certain criteria to reach certification according to Blue Zones. With that, it's an individual engagement of 15% of our population, our residents ages 15 and older. So if you do the math and you know our population, we're looking at about engaging a little over 32,000 people in this Blue Zones project work. It starts with taking the pledge to want to live better longer, and then it also encourages again, kind of 5 simple steps and actions and a checklist of things that you get to choose what you want to do. And then also some really great things like a Blue Zones app that you can kind of monitor, see how you're doing, self-assess to say, okay, does this stuff really work? Let me just tell you, when I took this job, I was like, I should probably try doing some of these things that I'm not doing a very good job at. Let's see if it works. Susan Casper on Channel 3 shared it early this week, but since really accepting this role at Blue Zones Project in March of 2023, I really thought I wasn't doing anything, and I dropped 14 pounds. So I'm like, this stuff actually works because they are those simple nudges. I started walking more, just taking a closer look at those menus and trying to make those healthy choices. So I'm really excited as we impact the work ahead. So the next thing that you need to know is around the places work. And this is where I get really excited because I've had the opportunity to see what other communities are doing. So we are going to work, as I mentioned, life radius, the places you spend the most time outside of your home. So that really is our work sites, our schools, our grocery stores, and our restaurants that are also influential in what we do. So with that said, work sites, so any of those sectors of business, what they can do is they can get registered to become Blue Zones approved places. What that looks like is we have a pledge packet with a menu of best practices and kind of a point system. So what our team will sit down and do is go through, let's say with a work site, and see what you're already doing to promote well-being in your work site. Because as we mentioned, higher productivity, lower absenteeism, better health on the front end, and also higher retention. People want to stay at places and organizations that value their well-being and prioritize the importance of having a work-life balance as well. So again, when we look at work sites, it could be, this is always a good one. Blue Zones reserved parking spaces are actually parking spaces that are further away from the front door than the ones close. So think about how many extra steps you get in if you were to be parked further away. My kids are still learning to love this one too, and just as an aside, and I talk about my kids a lot, but this is again how I know they're listening what I'm saying, is that they are 11 and 9 years old, and when they know I go straight to that furthest parking spot, they say Blue Zones parking. So they are on board and they understand it as well. So, but again, other things with work sites, what are you serving in your cafeterias that are available for your employees? What are you doing to encourage some mental breaks throughout the day, to take a break or get up and walk around so that you're not stationary and sedentary at your desk all day long? Some other things as it relates to schools. Schools is really an important piece of this because it's twofold. Not only are schools one of our largest employers in the community, and our teachers, we got to thank them and love them for everything that they do day in and day out to nurture the growth of and development and education of our children. We have to make sure those teachers are healthy and their well-being is good, because I would say that they are top of the list in caring for others before maybe sometimes caring for themselves. But then our children, if we can give our kids the tools that they need now to make those healthy choices, think about how that is going to then impact their children and their children's children. And again, whether that is a community garden at campus, whether that is a garden at home, learning. My kids are taking great pride in the things that we're growing at home, and they're actually trying everything too, because there is that sense of pride when you grow it yourself. It seems to taste better apparently than when it's bought from the store. So again, schools, we're working on a variety of different things. Blue Zones, we call it walking school buses. So while it's not always accessible, or there may not always be a safe walking route to school, that's what our team is going to do, is work with schools to find those places. So maybe there's a centralized meeting point that a group of kids can walk to school together with their parents, and maybe there's neighbors coming out to make sure that they're getting from one point to the next safely. So I love the idea of it. I had the opportunity to participate in another Blue Zone Project community, and I guess I get emotional when it comes to kids, but it almost brought tears to my eye to see it in action and see it really come to life. So restaurants, Blue Zones approved, Blue Zones inspired, Blue Zones friendly menu items that are marked as that on their menus, working with the restaurateurs and chefs to procure local items from farms. There's lots of different ways that we can really engage with restaurants. And then grocery stores too. How do we identify the healthy items? Let's have them labeled and marked as healthy and Blue Zones. Let's have a healthy checkout line at the end, instead of maybe some of the things that we see as the impulse buy as the last thing we see at the checkout line. What if those snacks were healthy snacks, that your impulse buy looked a little different than that salty, sugary, caffeine-filled item that we currently have? So keep your eyes peeled for those Blue Zones checkout lines. They're coming, and they're going to be great, because I just think that's a really smart idea. That's the line. I don't care if the line's longer, which I always pick the worst line at the grocery store anyway. So if you ever see me at the store, don't get behind me, because something is going to delay you through the checkout. But hopefully those Blue Zones checkout lines will have lots of people that go through them. And then, so that's, again, a little glimpse into the places work. Again, we have menus of best practice evidence-based learnings that we have shown in other communities where this really works and how it does impact. It's also important to note the way we measure well-being is through the Gallup Well-Being Index. And so even on a scale, some might say, you know what, Scottsdale's fine or Scottsdale's great, and Scottsdale already has the mentality of well-being, and that is all true. But when we look at our Gallup Well-Being Index as a baseline from this past summer, is the national average we are above the national average, which I think we all would have assumed that. But with that said, the national average isn't good at all. So if we're looking at a 0 to 100 point scale and the national average is in the 50s, Scottsdale's at a 67.5. So if we were looking at a grade on a test, we're not quite past. As a parent, that would not be acceptable for my children to bring home a test score like that. So it does go to show that we have room for improvement, and this is a big opportunity for us, again, to set the stage for the future. And then now we're going into number 3, what you need to know is around policy. So we are really leading this work with our people and places, and we know some of this policy is going to follow. So we have team members on our local team that represent each of these 3 pillars. So we do have a policy team, and we work in 4 policy areas. It is food systems, making sure people have access to healthy foods, and making sure that, again, well-being is accessible to everyone. So what can we do to ensure that our farmers are able to get their foods onto the shelves and into the restaurants in a way that everyone can afford them as well? So that really is around food system. Also, we're learning we don't always know how to cook some items, is what we're finding out too, is that just because I buy that item, I don't know about you, but I'm Googling a recipe, or I'm trying to find a YouTube video of how do I prepare this food if I don't already know. And so that's an important piece of some of the work that we do to make sure everybody knows what to do with these foods and how to prepare those foods. So that's going to be really great. We also will work in tobacco and alcohol policy work. So that really is, again, what we heard from the community through this foundation and planning is we have a fairly low smoking rate in Scottsdale, but where we see some spikes that aren't so great is when we look at our e-cigarettes and vaping and in our youth. So vaping seems to be like the cool term to use, but at the end of the day, it's still an e-cigarette. So it's important that our kids know that and that they understand the impacts of what that can do. So really supporting our school district, our teachers, our parents with great resources around that. And then with the alcohol policy, it's really around just decreasing excessive drinking, which again, there's a lot of bad aftermath that can come along with that. We also talk about the built environment as the 4th policy area that we are looking to impact change. We have worked alongside the City of Scottsdale in aligning all of their plans. For those of you that are longtime residents of the community, you know it only took 10 years for us to get the 2035 general plan ratified and approved by Scottsdale voters. So we want to make sure all of the planning that we do is in alignment with that, to either create social gathering places for people to find connection, like our beautiful Civic Center, and if not, and if they don't know these places exist, we have to find ways to make sure when people are saying, wouldn't it be great if we have, and we say we do, we just need to activate them. So really, all the amazing places that the city has set up for us as public space to be able to connect and gather is really what we want to encourage. We also are talking about promoting natural movement. So you are going to see, and this is going to come a little later, so I'm skipping ahead, but you're going to see programs that get you out walking together in groups in some of these spaces and places, because we are fortunate that we've got Civic Center, Old Town, the Indian Wash Greenbelt, the McDowell Sonoran Preserve. These are amazing places that we need to continue to unlock for our local community so that they know that it is all there. So those are kind of, again, everything that we do, we are looking at all the plans of the city. So whether it's the general plan, whether it's the transportation action master plan, whether it's a sustainability plan, parks and rec plan, all this work aligns with the city's plans as well. So we really want to support those initiatives and make sure that Blue Zones Project aligns with the plans that the city already has. So I've got a couple minutes to close out here, so let me make sure I get back on track, because like I said, on stage I have a tendency to veer off when I get going talking about something I really care about, and this has lots of things that I care about. So with that said, programs. You're going to see a variety of programs that are available today and moving forward as it relates to improving well-being. So this is number 2. So whether it is a walking Moai group, again, that group of individuals that are matched together to be potentially friends forever, that's what we want to encourage and empower. So we will have walking groups, we will have potluck groups, we will have purpose groups, we will put on and facilitate purpose workshops. So again, people can understand, unlock, and put their purpose to work if they aren't already doing that. So these are all programs that are hosted by Blue Zones Project Scottsdale are free to attend, and that is, again, to the generosity of our community partners to make this happen. We want to make sure that there is not a barrier to entry to well-being. So any program you see posted, which you can find all of our events and programs on our bluezonesprojectscottsdale.com website, keep an eye peeled and sign up. Again, we're offering a few introductory programs that are going to be starting within the next month, so that you can sign up and get engaged. So we want everybody, again, not only to be here today, but really start to live this way. And again, so that we can reach sort of those tipping points and critical mass, so that it's just a way of life for us and we're not trying so hard to live better longer. And lastly, again, the number one thing that you need to know about Blue Zones Project Scottsdale is that this is really a community-led initiative, and it's nationally supported. And we wouldn't be here if the community didn't want it, because that is the first sign of failure, is if a community has a reservation or hesitation around this work, we know that a Blue Zones project isn't going to be successful. So we are fortunate that whether you are a long-standing community member, a new community member, or maybe just one that works or plays in Scottsdale, this has the ability to have a ripple effect all across our county, our state, because you each can take some of these principles into your own homes, and then people will share it. Again, they are simple nudges. It is all about choices, adding more choices, not taking anything away. So whatever you heard that we're taking stuff away, that's not the case. You can still eat meat. I will too. You can still drive a car. I will too. We're not removing any of that. We are complementing what we already have and elevating what we already have to improve our well-being. So I just want to make sure that among all it is our community working together for something good for the future and for our current community as well. So I think I did it right on the button on time. Thank you so much for attending this session today.